Before the outer world tells you who you are, your inner world already decided it. The silent images you hold in your mind about yourself, others, and life are not just thoughts. They are living blueprints. They shape how you feel, how you act, what you attract, and even what you allow yourself to become. Most people walk through life unaware that their deepest inner images are sabotaging their growth. They see themselves as broken, unworthy, or powerless, and so they unconsciously recreate those stories again and again. But once you begin to see how these images are formed, and how they operate, everything changes. You don't have to be at the mercy of your past anymore. You can rewrite the internal pictures and create a new reality. This isn't imagination, it's transformation. Your mind is not just a mirror of reality, it's a projector, and it's time to take back the lens. Most people think they see the world as it is, but in truth, they see the world as they are. Your mind doesn't just passively absorb reality like a camera. It actively shapes what you experience by projecting meaning, expectation, and identity onto everything around you. This is why two people can live the same moment and walk away with completely different stories. One might see opportunity, the other might see threat. The difference isn't in the moment, it's in the lens. That lens is built from your past experiences, emotions, beliefs, and most powerfully, the inner images you carry unconsciously. You project those images onto your life before you even consciously realize it, and then you perceive them as if they were objective truth. Let's say you've internalized an image of yourself as a failure. That image, whether you're aware of it or not, will start filtering everything. You'll see rejection where there was silence. You'll sabotage your own steps forward, not out of weakness but because your inner image doesn't believe you belong with success. This is not because life is against you, it's because your projection becomes a script, and you keep replaying the same movie. This psychological mechanism is at the root of so many patterns we can't seem to break. If you've ever wondered why certain cycles repeat, why you're always drawn to the same kind of toxic relationship, or why you talk yourself out of dreams, it's likely because you're not perceiving reality, you're perceiving your projections. These projections aren't deliberate. They arise from pain, conditioning, and unconscious protection mechanisms that were meant to shield you but ended up limiting you. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's exactly what happens here. The unexamined images you hold inside become your destiny unless you stop, question, and change them. Most people don't realize they're stuck in a loop because it feels normal, but normal doesn't mean healthy. Normal just means familiar, and what's familiar is what your inner image allows. So how do you break this loop? The first step is awareness. You have to slow down and ask, what am I projecting here? What belief is shaping how I'm seeing this person, this moment, or even myself? It requires brutal honesty, not blame. You're not guilty for having inner images. They were formed by survival. But now survival is no longer the goal. Freedom is. One powerful exercise is to identify the inner image you have about your worth. Visualize it. Give it form. Is it weak? Is it invisible? Is it small? Now ask, where did this image come from? Was it a moment of rejection in childhood? Was it a teacher's voice, a parent's anger, a social comparison? You'll start realizing you've been seeing life not through your eyes, but through the imprint of your wounds. And once you see that, you gain power. Because if the mind is a projector, then you can change the film. You can create new images, images that reflect your truth, not your trauma. These new images aren't lies or fake affirmations. They are your deeper potential rising to the surface. It's not about seeing only the good, it's about seeing the real. And the real you is far more capable, strong, and whole than you were ever taught to believe. As long as you think your perception is reality, you'll stay trapped. But once you realize your projection is shaping perception, you start reclaiming control. You can start choosing the lens. You can say no to the voice in your head that says you're not enough. You can stop assuming you know how everything will turn out. You can walk into life as if it were fresh because it is. It always was. It was only your projection that made it feel like a dead end. You're not doomed to repeat. You're not a prisoner of your past. You're the director of your story, and it starts by seeing clearly, seeing what's really there, not what you fear, not what you expect, not what you've been told. That's the path to freedom. That's how you reclaim reality from the grip of illusion. And it starts when you stop blindly perceiving and start becoming aware of what you're projecting. From the moment you're born, your mind begins forming images about who you are, what the world is, and how safe it is to be yourself. These images aren't just memories, they're emotional blueprints. A single moment, like being ignored when you cried, or praised only when you pleased others, can form a core belief that lasts for decades. You might not consciously remember the moment, but the image it created lives in your nervous system. It becomes part of the background of your life, influencing how you think, feel, and behave without you even realizing it. This is how beliefs get wired into your identity, not through logic, but through emotionally charged images created during your most vulnerable years. Imagine a child who constantly sees a disapproving face whenever they speak their truth. Over time, an image forms. My truth hurts people. That image becomes a belief. I should stay quiet. Now fast forward into adulthood. That same person struggles to speak up in relationships, in work, in life, not because they're weak or incapable, but because the inner image of rejection still governs their nervous system. The belief has grown roots, and unless it's seen and challenged, it continues to operate as truth. What's terrifying is that most of these beliefs don't come from abuse or extreme trauma. They often arise from ordinary, everyday moments. A parent too tired to respond, a teacher's criticism, a sibling's teasing. Small events repeated often or emotionally intense form powerful inner images, and the child doesn't question the world, they question themselves. The result is a quiet rewriting of self-worth. These early images become the lens through which you interpret everything else. If your image of connection is tied to pain, you may start pushing love away. If your image of success is tied to pressure, you may sabotage every opportunity to rise, and it feels completely rational. Your adult mind builds logical stories around these images, like "I'm just not good with people," or "I don't deserve better," but beneath those words is a frozen picture formed when you were too young to defend yourself. The tragedy is, these beliefs feel like who you are. You can't see them from the outside, because you're living inside them, and because they've existed for so long, your mind protects them, even when they hurt you. This is how the psyche creates safety, by choosing the familiar over the unknown, even if the familiar is limiting. But here's the truth. These beliefs were formed by a younger version of you, a child with limited perspective, with no choice but to adapt. You had to make sense of things in the only way you could, but that doesn't mean those interpretations were accurate. They were emotional responses, not facts. And now, as an adult, you can go back, not to relive the pain, but to re-see the image. This is the beginning of healing. To realize that what you believe about yourself may not be true, it may just be old, it may just be unexamined, and it may be holding you hostage. The mind clings to early beliefs like they're sacred, but transformation begins the moment you question them. Where did this belief come from? Who gave it to me? Was it spoken, or was it something I absorbed? And most importantly, is it still true today? When you start to question these inherited images, you open space for new truths, space for who you are beyond survival. You begin to rewrite the story, not with false positivity, but with clarity. You realize you don't have to carry the shame that wasn't yours. You don't have to live by a script written by someone else's limitation. You don't have to believe what your 5-year-old self decided just to stay emotionally safe. The mind is powerful, but it's also programmable, and the same mechanism that formed limiting beliefs through images can now be used to create new, liberating ones. Visualization isn't just imagination, it's reauthoring your inner world. When you see yourself standing in your truth, when you picture yourself speaking without fear, loving without shrinking, living without apology, that image begins to rewire your beliefs. Not instantly, but steadily, because the mind believes what it sees with feeling. That's how the old image got planted, and that's how the new one will grow. You are not broken, you are simply carrying images that don't reflect your truth. And once you realize that, you don't have to fight your old beliefs, you just have to stop feeding them. The moment you see the image, you gain power over it. You're not the belief, you're the one who sees it, and the one who sees always has the power to choose something new. Your outer life is not random, it is a mirror of the images you carry inside. Before you experience anything in the physical world, your mind has already painted a picture of what's possible, what's allowed, and what's familiar. These images become the silent blueprint that shapes your choices, your reactions, your relationships, and even your sense of destiny. If the inner picture is broken, limited, or rooted in fear, then no matter how hard you work, how much you desire, or how positive you try to be, life will keep looping in the same pattern. This is why change doesn't begin outside, it begins in the unseen world of your inner image. Think of your psyche like a movie projector. The reel inside your beliefs, memories, fears, and hopes projects the story you live. If the reel is filled with images of abandonment, unworthiness, or limitation, then every situation you encounter will somehow bend to fit those expectations, not because you want them to, but because your subconscious is more loyal to familiarity than to happiness. This is how you can attract the same kind of relationship over and over, end up in similar conflicts, or self-sabotage just when things begin to improve. The outside world follows the script of the inner picture. But here's what most people miss. The inner picture was formed when you were young and powerless. You didn't choose it with wisdom, you absorbed it from others. From your parents' reactions, your teachers' words, the media you consumed, and the experiences you couldn't yet understand. If you felt invisible, your mind created an image of being unworthy of attention. If you were punished for expressing emotion, your mind created a picture of silence as safety. These weren't logical decisions. They were emotional responses meant to keep you safe. Now fast forward into adulthood. You want to be seen. You want to speak your truth. You want deep love, meaningful work, inner peace. But if the inner image still holds the picture of someone small, unworthy, or invisible, then your reality will resist change. You'll find yourself stuck in the past, even when the past is long over. That's not your fault. It's how the psyche protects itself. But it's also the reason most people never change. They work harder outside while remaining unchanged inside. To shift your reality, you must go inward, not with force but with honesty. What images do I hold about myself, about love, about success, about safety? Are those images mine, or are they inherited? Are they helping me evolve, or are they keeping me safe in a prison that no longer exists? Once you become aware of the inner picture, you can begin to change it, not by erasing the past but by choosing a new story going forward. This is not imagination, it's neural rewiring. When you consistently visualize a new image of confidence, strength, worthiness, your brain begins to reprogram its default settings. Emotional repetition creates new neural pathways. You begin to expect differently, and what you expect you start to attract. This is why inner work is not spiritual fluff, it is the architecture of your future. Your nervous system doesn't follow logic, it follows feeling, and when you feel different about who you are, life begins to organize itself differently around you. But it requires courage, because changing the inner picture means letting go of the identity you've known, even if it was painful. It means stepping into the unknown version of yourself, one who is no longer the victim, the outcast, the people pleaser, the one who always has to shrink. That old identity was familiar, and in its own way it felt safe. But safety is not the same as truth, and if you want to live a life that's aligned with your soul, you have to stop letting your past write your future. Changing the inner image isn't a one-time task, it's a daily practice. Every time you notice an old belief rising, I don't belong, it's too late for me, I always get hurt, you pause, you don't argue with it or shame it, you simply ask, is this the image I still want to carry? And then you plant a new one. You picture yourself choosing differently, you visualize yourself standing in your power, you feel what it's like to be free, not just conceptually, but emotionally. Over time, the old images lose power because you've stopped feeding them, and the new images grow strong because you've chosen to believe in them, even before they show up outside. That's real inner power, to believe not in what you see but in what you decide to see, and that decision changes everything. Your reality bends to your belief, your life follows your vision, and the world you experience begins not with circumstance but with the silent image your mind holds most dearly. So if you want a new life, don't just wait for it, see it, build it inside, feed it daily, and watch as reality begins to reflect the truth you finally chose to believe. Visualization isn't about escaping reality, it's about rewriting it from the inside out. Most people think imagination is child's play, something irrelevant to real life, but the truth is your nervous system and subconscious mind respond to vividly imagined experiences the same way they respond to real ones. That means every time you visualize something with emotional intensity, you are programming your internal world to align with that imagined experience. It's not fantasy, it's mental rehearsal, identity shaping, and deep energetic preparation for what's possible. The reason people stay stuck isn't because they lack effort, it's because they unconsciously see themselves through old internal images. Weak, unworthy, not enough. These pictures were formed early in life and became silent scripts running in the background. You keep living inside them. Visualization gives you the power to interrupt that cycle by installing a new inner image, one that reflects your potential instead of your pain. When you see yourself speaking with confidence, setting boundaries without fear, or walking through life with calm strength, your body begins to believe it's possible. This creates a shift in posture, tone, energy, even decision-making. You act from a new blueprint. That's how change becomes sustainable, not just by thinking new thoughts, but by feeling a new version of yourself consistently until your nervous system accepts it as familiar and safe. Visualization is a form of inner truth-telling. It's where you confront the life you've settled for.